Hi there, Heartland Emmy Chapter. We are so excited to have you joining us here today for our How to Win an Emmy program. We know so many of you have crafted wonderful stories, produced this just amazing content this past year, and we want to celebrate and encourage you to be a part of our process. So we are the Heartland Board of Governors, just a few representatives to share a bit about our experience and maybe some strategies to get you moving in the right direction if you want to do so. I'll first introduce myself. I am Annette Lawless. I'm a storyteller from here in Wichita. I've been a journalist for almost 2 decades now. The past 11 years, I've been a morning news anchor here in Wichita. I've loved the experience, and now I'm kind of this hybrid behind-the-scenes journalist between Wichita and Topeka, working for Gray Television. I am thrilled as your awards chair for this region to celebrate all the things that you guys do. We have a lot of people representing our area, which is amazing. Our chapter is really big. So we have different states, including Wyoming, Nebraska, we have Kansas, Oklahoma, and of course, Colorado. And we have a couple of folks joining me here today to talk about their experiences as well. So I want to introduce them here to you all. So we have Ali Meyer from KFOR in Oklahoma City. And then we have Medina from KDVR in Denver. So welcome, you guys. Glad to have you here.
Thank you, Annette.
Thank you for having us.
I feel like I have some storytelling royalty with me. I feel like this is just so wonderful to have you guys share your experience and everything. Would you guys mind introducing yourself? Tell us about what you do at your news operation, everything. Ali, do you mind first?
Sure, of course. I have worked at the NBC station in Oklahoma City for 25 years now. So we've been a part of the Heartland Chapter since the very beginning. And I'm anchor the morning show, and I'm lucky to get to work on special projects mostly after that, long form reporting, and just helping out the storytelling aspect of our newsroom here at KFOR in Oklahoma City.
And I'm Isaias Medina. I've been in the news business for about 23 years. I've been here in Denver since 2011. I am currently the news operations manager, but I have probably about 16 years of experience in the investigative unit here in Albuquerque. So I'm excited to help anybody win some Emmys.
Yeah, let's do it, right? I think we're all pretty excited. No matter what time of year, I think a lot of people, awards contests are happening all the time. I mean, we have, of course, the Heartland Emmy chapter. We close out our contest entries at the end of January. There's different contests too, MPPA, Murrows, state award contest. There's just all at top of mind. Preparing for the Emmys, though, I feel like it's just so special to get one of those coveted statues. It's very exciting. How do you all prepare for this? I'm curious. Do you walk into your year thinking, I'm going to tell these kind of stories. I'm going to try to get these different categories and awards. What is your strategy walking into this contest?
I would say as I'm producing stories, I do give it some thought. There was a time when I didn't, but after I've entered year after year, I think even during the story process, and when we're thinking about what comes first, and should we hold the surprise for later in the piece, or should we bring it in 1/3, I think sometimes some of the awards options and maybe some of the values of the award system play into even how I'm doing storytelling now.
And for me, I always look at stories, when you're capturing moments. If you're able to capture that special moment, whether it's a kid with brain cancer or something like that, those are the stories that really stand out with judges, but there is no golden ticket for winning an Emmy as anybody. I've done stories where we have changed laws and still didn't win an Emmy. So really, it's hard. It's not easy to win.
Yeah, I wish there were a formula that we all would know. If I do this and this and this, you're guaranteed something, but it's not. But I kind of like that though, that element of surprise. So for people less familiar with the Emmy contest, what happens is that people submit their work. The Heartland chapter then sends those pieces to be judged by various people across the country. We have at least 7 people look at those entries typically, and then they go and judge them on a scale. We've had different changes with the scales in recent years, but the scale is being judged on a 1 to 7, and of course a 7 being top, and that's something that signals to us that you definitely deserve an Emmy. when people go and submit their stuff at a contest, we could have one person win an Emmy, we could have no people win an Emmy, or we could have multiple people win an Emmy. It just depends on how great your work is. And for those curious about the judging process or about the winning process too, I would definitely encourage you to go and judge so you can get like that hands-on insight. What do you all think when you go and judge contests? What do you gather from it? What's your experience like with going through that?
It's probably the best advice that I ever got was, if you want to know what wins an Emmy, go judge Emmys. I mean, it's great advice. I've even judged before and found stories that they're doing in other regions that would totally do well here or are an issue here. It's been a generator of story ideas for me, and just techniques for storytelling. And I love judging Emmys. I try do the max 3 to get the discount, and then sometimes I'll find categories that I just am interested in and want to know a little bit more about, and I'll judge 5 categories just because I'm a news junkie. I'm fascinated by what they're doing in other markets and other regions of the country, and what issues are important for local journalists in other parts of the country. And I think the best way to win an Emmy is to judge Emmys in other categories 100%.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Getting out of your comfort zone. If you're someone who does a lot of general news, go and judge a different category that you normally don't do. Politics, societal concerns, investigative, and you really can see what stands out.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it does give you great ideas. Like, I'll see something, I'm like, oh, that stand up look really cool. Or maybe those graphics were just like, I never would have thought of that. And you get that inspiration and add it to your checklist for the next year. And I think that's really important when people come to this contest and they submit their work. Try to think in the eyes of a judge, like if you're sending something in, think about how they would judge it on that 1 to 7 scale. I mean, I'm hoping that everything everyone submits, they're like, it's a, 10 out of 10 or 7 out of 7. But think about how in their eyes they would judge it. Is the quality of your work a 7 or a 6? Or, is the videography a 7? I mean, those are things that to me, like when I go and submit stuff, I'm like, I know this is an A+ piece of work and I feel really good about it, and fingers crossed, maybe I'll get a trophy at the end of this. So I don't know if that's everyone's thought process, but I try to put my mind in that perspective, but everything's subjective. I've been told by other storytellers in years past that like the Emmys, like people who win Emmys, you could submit the exact same thing and it won't win a Murrow or it won't win an MPPA. It'll probably get one of those, but every judge on that is going to be different. And that's okay too. But at least walking into it, if you're thinking like a judge, maybe that'll give you an upper hand.
Yeah, one thing that Izzy said a minute ago that resonated with me is sometimes you can do a story or a series of stories that have a huge impact in your community, like changing laws, saving lives. But it's an issue that's super important in your local community and maybe not as well understood in Michigan or Oregon where they're judging your piece. So I've had that same experience where I think this was so impactful. It's definitely going to win an Emmy. It made such a difference in my home region. But that issue didn't resonate in another part of the country. So I think maybe thinking about those moments that are emotional and that are going to resonate no matter where the judges are judging it from is probably something important to consider when it comes to what pieces you're choosing to enter for an Emmy.
And it doesn't have to be a big project, or like you said, it could be this real elaborate thing, but a good heartfelt short story can also win. You just never know. But if it's good work, I think it's good work. It doesn't matter what size of market you're in. You could be in a tiny part of our chapter, and that is okay. We're so excited to have you. But those bigger cities like Denver, for example, I mean, they do well, but they don't always have to win. So everyone does wonderful work, and we should definitely celebrate it. So
I think you hit on something when you said short too. I have found that over the years, some of my shorter entries tend to win more. I think I sent you an example of a breaking news entry. It was 12 minutes long, and I think the breaking news time limit is 30 or 60 minutes. Remembering that people's time is valuable, your viewers' time as well as the judges' time, and stories that just get to the heart of it right away rather than drag on for a long time and get to some surprise at the end. I think sometimes brevity really works in your favor when it comes to Emmy entries.
Definitely with composites, I definitely think you have to capture the judge's attention within the first 2 minutes. I know everybody likes to put a lot of stuff into an entry, but if you don't capture their attention in those first 2 minutes, especially when it comes to like a newscast, breaking news situation like that, find the most interesting point of that newscast and put that at the top, and then just let it play out. And if you capture their attention, you'll get nominated
Hey,
for sure.
hey, we want to
Yeah.
see that. It's so exciting. I'm so pumped. Are you guys like super stoked? Like this time of year, I'm still putting my stuff together. I don't know about you guys, but it's kind of like you're in that grind, but it's such a thrill to reflect back. And you're like, usually at the end of the year, I'm like, I didn't do anything great. But then I start looking through the stories. I'm like, you know what? Our team was cool. And it's just so nice to be able to reflect and see the great things you've done.
I think what's great about Emmy too is the categories are pretty unique. We have some statewide awards in Oklahoma, and they're hard news, soft news, series single, investigative. That's about it. But with the Heartland chapter, we have tons of categories. And so dive in there and read specifically something that maybe you thought was a crime story and might work in crime, could also work in technology or health. And so, of course, you can't enter in both, but you might weigh your options. We've got some neat categories.
It's good. I mean, if you get a chance, flip through all those pages. Also, look at the rules. Like, you got to have, I don't want to freak anybody out, but there's sometimes mistakes people make, and those will get you disqualified. And if you ever have questions about anything, feel free to contact the Heartland Emmy chapter office. Tracy and Ashton, they do a wonderful job navigating through everyone's questions. They appreciate if you get them in earlier than later, because it'll be certainly busy come the end of the month in January. But they're so excited to hear from you all and to get you all prepared so that you're ready and that your entries are successful and they can be seen by people across the country. So it's a wonderful thing. I think it's so great.
I've probably never had an Emmy season where I haven't called with a question or two. And it's okay. They're helpful. Or send a quick email. It's the rule. There are rules, and you don't want to break them. And everyone's nervous. You don't want to be throwing away your money on an entry that gets disqualified. So call and make sure. Is this lift allowed? Was this time limit? What is the time limit for a series piece instead of a single? They've got answers. They're not going to tell you which category to enter, but they can tell you specifically what the rules are for each category, and you want to make sure you're following all of them.
And Tracy's very responsive. At least in my experience, Tracy has answered every question I've had. So definitely she's a valuable resource in the chapter for sure.
Yeah. And there are great things to celebrate: individual awards, of course, things for a team entry. We have categories now. We've changed things a little bit in the past couple of years where like news directors can go and get selected for an award for their team. We have things tiered off for smaller stations in our region. So things are tiered a little bit for those bigger kind of categories that people can submit for. So think about those things. We're trying to be as fair and equitable and just kind to everybody within our chapter. We want to celebrate everyone's work, and we're just so thrilled. Is there any lasting word, Ali, Izzy, that you want to leave with people who might be like, I know some people are probably watching this and they're like, gosh, I've never done this before. I'm on the fence. What would you like to say to those folks?
I think never underestimate your work. Like you said, sometimes you get to the end of the year and go, man, I didn't change any laws this year. I didn't shift the world off its axis this year. But if you start looking at your work, you might be surprised. It's kind of like a reporter who does a live shot and thinks, oh, that was awful. And then they go look at it and they're, well, actually it wasn't that bad. Fresh set of eyes, look over some of your best work for the year and see if it can find a home in a category. Listen, you can't win an Emmy if you don't enter. So you got to put yourself out there. And I really believe our chapter is so competitive that being nominated in the Heartland region is like winning an Emmy in most other regions. So just saying.
I agree with Ali. I would say, one question I get a lot from people that enter for the first time is, should I enter an air check and should I have my intro and outro in there? And I generally tell people, depending on what you say, if there's information in there that is a part of the story, then enter the whole thing. And that's helped me out a lot, especially being on the investigative unit, because we always have information that is in those stand-ups that is not in the story. So it just depends on that. And like Ali said, just being nominated in this chapter is a huge honor. I've seen people be nominated for 11 and come out with one, and I learned real quick that if you get one, that's special right there.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's such an exciting process. I am so stoked to see people get into this, like the final days, and collect their stuff together and submit. I wish everyone certainly the best when it comes to entering. Of course, if you want to see, now I was so fortunate, Izzy and Ali also gave us, and I'll put some of mine in there as well, some clips of their stories that they're super proud of, things just to kind of get you thinking about your entry and your success story. If you want to go and see other people's work, I mean, I would go and just Google if you're trying to enter something like a craft category for news anchor or editor, go onto YouTube and just go and see what other people, because a lot of people do upload those reels online, and you can get a feel for what other people do enter in different chapters, and get a good gauge of what you can put together to go and craft something that's going to go and win. But congratulations, everybody. You survived 2024, and we're here to celebrate your work. And for those who have questions, like I said, just go ahead and contact the Emmy office. Our team is ready to help guide you. And congratulations and congrats to this year too. I think ahead. I like to go when I work on my year ahead. I just want to tell great stories, but I kind of throughout the year I'll make notes. I'm like, oh, this is a really good newscast, or this is a really good something. This is something to think about for come next season. So we encourage you guys to think ahead and to be a part of this process, and we're thrilled to have you here. So thank you guys for joining this conversation of how to win an Emmy. Again, if you have questions, just contact our office.
Annette, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Great to see you,
Yeah,
Izzy.
this is wonderful.